Hello and welcome to Newman Congregational Church's Holy Troublemakers and Unconventional Saints TV. I am Christy Wynveen, the Minister for Faith Formation here in Rumford, Rhode Island, and I am so thankful and glad that you are here to join us for another week of Holy Troublemakers TV. Before we begin today, let's take a moment and reflect on our candle. We are made of stories and stardust. We tell the stories of holy troublemakers and unconventional saints, people of faith who have worked for love, justice, and compassion to inspire us, to make us bold, and connect us to each other in the love that makes us one. All right, today's troublemaker, her name is Kaitlin Curtice. I first heard about Kaitlin Curtice when I read her book, Native, last year. And if you have adults in the room with you, they might like it and like to check it out too. So I'm very excited to introduce Kaitlin Curtice to you today, as she has become one of my most favorite authors. Here she is. All right, we will be reading from our Holy Troublemakers and Unconventional Saints book by Deneen Akers. Kaitlin Curtice hears the sound of quiet footsteps and looks up to see her 5-year-old son making his way down the stairs in his pajamas. She makes space for him on the couch, and he climbs up next to her. She loves these morning snuggles. Manawabin, Kaitlin whispers in his ear as she hugs him. Manawabin sounds like Minowabin, and it means good morning in the language of the Potawatomi people. Minowabin, Mama, he whispers back. She feels a deep gladness in her heart hearing his morning greeting in Potawatomi. The Potawatomi words all have actions and ideas embedded into them. Minowabin translates to, "It is good when things become visible in the light." A fitting idea for the time of day when the sun's rays begin to touch the land, the animals, and the people of Turtle Island, the term that many Native people use for North America. Kaitlin had only begun learning more about her Potawatomi heritage, culture, and language a few years before. Even though she was born on Potawatomi land in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and has always been an enrolled member of her tribe. Generations of Kaitlin's Native American relatives have lived in the U.S. They knew they needed to minimize their Potawatomi identity simply to survive. Kaitlin's mother was of European heritage, and when Kaitlin was 9, her parents divorced. Afterward, Kaitlin had little contact with her Potawatomi relatives and the tribal land. "I didn't know we had stories. I didn't know we had a language," she says. "We knew we were Potawatomi, but no one talked about it. I realize now this was the effect of forced assimilation over time." As a young girl growing up in the Baptist church and trying to make sense of the world after her parents' divorce, Kaitlin became the best Christian girl she could. In school, she carried an extra Bible in her backpack, just in case a schoolmate needed one. She memorized Holy Scriptures. She didn't ask questions in Sunday school, at least not out loud. She even posed with her Bible for her 5th grade school portrait. "I was the poster child for what I thought a good Christian girl should be," she says. As she got older, though, Kaitlin began to be curious about her Potawatomi heritage. As she moved into adulthood, marriage, and motherhood, she started to learn more about her roots, and she began to learn the Potawatomi language and history. It wasn't easy to reconcile her Christian faith with the grim reality of how the vast majority of American Christians had treated Native people. Her Potawatomi ancestors had been forced to leave their lands in the Great Lakes region in 1838 at gunpoint in a march we now call the Trail of Death, because so many people died along the way. The Trail of Death was just one of many such forced removals of Native peoples by European settlers. One day, while hiking through a tree-lined trail at Sweetwater Creek near her current home in Atlanta, Georgia, Kaitlin felt God affirming her as a Potawatomi woman. "God told me that I was Potawatomi. Growing up, I knew that, but it was head knowledge. In that moment, while hiking next to a giant river, God sent what head knowledge into heart knowledge. It became a different type of knowledge altogether. With her newfound appreciation for herself as a Potawatomi woman and as a new mother wanting to share her full heritage with her sons, Kaitlin immersed herself in Potawatomi culture. She learned about the Potawatomi's origin story, which begins with Sky Woman falling down from Sky World through a hole in the sky. The animals see the shaft of light from the hole, and they see that Sky Woman is falling towards the water. Her fall is broken by a flock of geese that see she is in danger. These geese hold her up on their wings until they can decide what to do next. Far below, a giant turtle offers to let her rest on his back. The animals can see that the woman needs land to live on. With the help of several animals, mud is retrieved from the bottom of the water so the land can be built on Turtle's back. Sky Woman is so grateful for the help of the animals that she begins dancing her thanks. As she dances, the land spreads all across the turtle's back. As Sky Woman fell, she grasped a bundle of seeds and roots in her hands from the tree of life. She plants these seeds in her new home. Soon plants, trees, and all manner of living things grow. This collective effort of geese, Sky Woman, the turtle, the animals, and the riverbed brought about life on Turtle Island. And this is why many Native people, including Kaitlin's tribe, call North America Turtle Island. It's a story of connectedness, of people, animals, and land coming together. Learning our Potawatomi origin story answered so many questions for me, Kaitlin says. It even helped me understand the Bible better. I'd always thought that the Genesis origin story had to be read completely literally, but I realized that this is what oral storytelling cultures do. We look around and wonder how something got there, and then we tell a story about it. Our cultural stories are all interconnected and fit together like a big, beautiful puzzle. That's why we need all of them. Today, Kaitlin works as an author and speaker, helping to share the stories that call all people to work for peace and restoration. But working together for a common vision where all people belong and can flourish means having a shared understanding of the past, even when it's painful to remember. Because she grew up in the Christian church and knows that world so well, Kaitlin is aware that she is a unique position to remind her family and friends at church the way Native peoples all over the world have been treated by Christians. For decades, Potawatomi children and other Native American children were forced to live away from their families in boarding schools, and those boarding schools were meant to kill the Indian and save the man. Native American children were banned from speaking their languages or practicing their cultures or religions in any way. They had to cut their hair short and they couldn't wear traditional clothing. They had to practice the Christian religion and they rarely saw their parents. The Bible was used to justify these programs that are now seen as cruel and unjust. The effects of these policies are still felt today among Native populations. The conditions under which they were forced to live have resulted in their high rates of poverty. Understandably, they also tend to mistrust the government. In many ways, Kaitlin's work comes back to that simple morning greeting that she loves to hear her son say, Minawadi, or it is good when the light shines on things. It's emotionally hard to reflect on these painful parts of the past. We might even prefer to forget what really happened to the Native people. But Kaitlin knows that acknowledging the truth, even if it's hard, is the only way healing can begin. As soon as Kaitlin began speaking and writing about her identity as both a Jesus follower and a Potawatomi woman, she began to have a harder time, especially in the church. Many Christians preferred her to be silent about her identity as a Native person. It's time for us as a collective to acknowledge what's been done to Native peoples at the hand of the church, she says. It's time to remember that everyone belongs. As long as the church only wants what is white in me and not what is Native in me, there's still more work to be done. Recently, Kaitlin got a tattoo on her left arm that was designed by another Native woman. My tattoo is a symbol of the healing of people, Kaitlin says. It carries a dream for all of us Indigenous people. but the only way to get there is through. So I light my tobacco, my sage, my sweetgrass, and I pray. I pray, Miigwech, thank you. Great Father, Creator, Great Spirit, and slowly but surely I find my way back. Slowly but surely I find a way to love. I wonder, what story about the beginning of the world have you grown up with? And what helps you remember that everyone belongs, that we are a group of people more than just one type of people, that we've all come from different places, some of us live where our ancestors are originally from, and some of us are immigrants or come from immigrant families of European heritage. Just depends upon where in the world you are. I hope that in reading the story about Kaitlin Curtice, it inspires you to think about origin stories. You might think about the origin of your family, but you might also think about the origin of the world and systems and how things have come to be. And maybe it will help lead you a little bit closer to God and maybe ask Him a few questions about what the origin story is. All right, let's take a moment and close in prayer. Dear God, thank you for origin stories that tell us who we are and whose we are. Thank you for Kaitlin Curtice and those who remind us that everyone belongs.